Hey guys, welcome back to another riveting, life-changing, life-altering installment of Tea Time with Ayek. We don't always drink tea, but honey, we spill tea. Okay? And I hope you're drinking tea in this season because there's a lot of ways to strengthen your immune system. So I hope you're drinking the teas. So here we have the notes, okay? I'm not gonna change the notes, but we have the notes because we're not gonna be here for 55,000 hours, but I'm gonna talk to you guys about how to find a house in Nigeria, specifically Lagos. Okay, so if you guys are not already aware or you're just, tuning in, just joining the party, then let me do some background. I moved to Nigeria in 2016 and I've been living there since December 2016. So December of this year is going to make it 4 years. I was living in Abuja initially with my uncle, and I was planning on living in Abuja long term, but I moved to Lagos because of a job and then I settled there. So this information can kind of apply generally, but I can really only give insight specifically on Lagos because that's where I did the house hunting myself. Okay, so let me tell you about my experience of house hunting. It was extremely difficult because, not difficult, it was long or extended. I was house hunting with my uncle, my mom's brother, and he didn't want a situation whereby I would get scammed. Real estate scam is a real thing, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. It's a real thing everywhere, but in Nigeria, it happens a lot. Let's just say that. My uncle was really like, listen, let's take our time. Let's figure out, a reasonable place, a suitable place, one that's safe. When I first moved to Lagos, I was living in Surulere and I was working in Lekki. Even that traffic sometimes would take 2 or 3 hours. It didn't really make any sense, which at the end of the day, where I live, takes like 2 or 3 hours anyway, because island traffic has a mind of its own. The thing about the way Lagos is generally on the mainland. Places that are secluded are usually hotspots for armed robbers, right? Because they know that it would be easy for them to get away and things like that. So generally, a lot of places on the mainland, people avoid living in areas that would be considered secluded, or estates that are considered secluded, because they just don't feel comfortable. They don't feel secure. While on the island, it's kind of the opposite, because unless you're living in Lekki Phase 1, almost every other place on the island, at a certain time, it dies down. That's just the norm. So I ended up finding a place in Jakonde. Jakonde is fifth roundabout. It's a relatively nice place. A lot of people that I know, or people that I worked with, or people that I used to go to church with, a lot of them live specifically in Jakonde. Like, I run into people I know all the time at ShopRite and things like that. So, and that's another reason why Jakonde is a good place, a good area, because you have like a major grocery store. You have ShopRite there, and even on that street there are other stores. So it's like a 10-minute drive. Yeah, not even 10 minutes, like 5 to 7 minutes drive, if you live in Jakonde, to get to a grocery store. Another place that's close to there is Agungi. The only challenge with Agungi is when it rains, you don't want to drive through there, you don't want to live there. The next one after, and I'm like going towards Lekki Phase 1. So Lekki Phase 1 is the closest place to the toll gate. After that is the fourth, or before that is the fourth roundabout. That is Ikate Elegushi. The 2 points of reference that people use to describe Ikate is House on the Rock and Spar, that area. Nikon Town is there too. That's a big housing estate, really nice places. It's definitely more for people who are more established. So I wouldn't really, there are a few places in Ikate, but generally the people that live there are, I guess, more financially buoyant. Most of the people that I know live there live with their parents. So, and the places that I've observed, might not really fit your price range if you're, living on your own, paying your rent yourself. Then the next one is Freedom Way. I think people also call that one Ikate. Guys, if you're familiar with Lekki, I call it Freedom Way, but some people also call that place Ikate. That's the back entrance to Lekki Phase 1. That whole area is Ikate. Third and fourth, I would just call them both Ikate. Really nice houses. Those are the places where people in our price range, in our age group, if you're just moving, it's a reasonable place to live, cost of living wise. So the side where Freedom Way is the side that will be considered close to Lekki Phase 1 or Lekki Phase 1. And then the side across the street where Nike Art Gallery is a world on its own. So second roundabout is called Marwa. Same idea. It's basically Lekki Phase 1. It's just, it has a different roundabout because it's like 2 minutes from Lekki Phase 1. And then of course it's Lekki Phase 1. A lot of people get Lekki Phase 1 misconstrued for a lot of reasons. Number one, a lot of people, especially people in the diaspora, we hear a lot about Lekki Phase 1 and we think that's like the only place we can live. That's what I thought. I was like, oh no, it has to be Lekki Phase 1. I don't know anywhere further back. Ew, what's that and stuff. Cost of living is on the higher side as far as getting a place accommodation in Lekki Phase 1. It's a little pricier because it's an attraction. It's the place that has high volume, high traffic. There's a lot of stores there. It's an estate on its own. If you live in Lekki Phase 1 and you work there, you literally don't have to leave Lekki Phase 1 unless you have to go to the airport or something. You never have to leave. Across from Lekki Phase 1 is an area called Oniru. Oniru is connected to, of course, the beach, Oniru Beach, and it's connected to VI. It's very close to VI. That's another place that a lot of people in our age group and in our price range are generally able to afford. It's a good area too. It's safe, and if you work in VI, it's your best bet. Ikoyi, it's old money. A lot of people who live there live with their parents. It's not impossible to live there, but what you can get in Jakonde or even Lekki Phase 1, you'd probably get like a quarter of that if you get a place in Ikoyi. There's a place called Lagos, which is Lagos Island. It's the island, obviously, but it's not really... I'm not too familiar. I see Lagos Island as a place where I go to buy things because of the market. A lot of people that live on Lagos Island were born and bred there. After Jakonde, Agungi is Chevron. Chevron is another place that it's not impossible to find a place in Chevron, but it's a little more expensive. A lot of people who live there, again, live with their parents. After that, we have VGC, which is another place that if you live there, you most likely live with your parents. It's not impossible to find a place there, but it's just really expensive. And the hassle, child. I live all the way back there. I'm driving in traffic for hours to get to Lekki Phase 1. Yeah. And then we have Ikota, those areas. Ikota is more of a marketplace. I don't even really think they're residential areas in Ikota. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, anyone, but Ikota is more of a marketplace, commercial area. You're going further back, you have Aja. Aja is a local government area on its own. A lot of people I know live in Aja. That's another place if you're looking for somewhere that is affordable. Aja is a good place. Safety wise, there's a lot of challenges, so you just have to take that into consideration. I know people that live even further in a place called Shangotedo. That's a place that's being developed. It's an estate on its own. A lot of people who live there and maybe they work from home, they don't leave, they stay there. It's a good place to live if you work in Chevron. I know a few people who live in Shangotedo and come all the way to VI. I don't recommend it. Housing is a lot cheaper there, but it's just, you have to take into consideration the hassle. There are people who live where I live, on the other side, Agungi. They have to be at work at 8. Sometimes they have to leave their house at 4 a.m. to be sure that they get to the office at 7:30 or 7:45. So it's this annoying thing of you're taking into consideration cost, but you're also taking into consideration stress and time you're going to spend on the road to get to work and get from work. That's something I really need to emphasize, especially if you want to move to Lagos. take those things into consideration. Where are you working? If you're working in VI, are you willing to leave the house 3 hours before you have to start work? So the mainland, the general hotspots where people live or where people move to when they move to Nigeria, Surulere, which is very close to Lekki Phase 1. Like I told you guys, that's where I was living before I came to the island. Ikeja, but cost of living in Ikeja is just as high as the island. It's a super commercialized area. It's super developed. It's where everything is, the magistrate, all of this stuff. So it's the airport. So cost of living is high in Ikeja. Ogudu, yeah, cost of living is relatively high. Omole Phase 1, Phase 2, cost of living is high. And when I say cost of living, I'm also taking into consideration housing, how much it costs to live there. A lot of people that live in those areas and in our age group, they also live with their parents. So just take that into consideration. Yes, and another good place, a place that I would actually recommend for people to live if you're on your own, would be Yaba. When a lot of people buy houses and just carve out spaces and make them studio apartments for multiple people, you find a lot of that in Yaba, and that's also because Unilag is around there. University of Lagos is there, so there's a lot of opportunities for student housing, so it's a little cheaper. Safety and everything, just be extremely careful. Now you have to take into consideration what amenities do you expect in where you want to live. Now the truth is this: we have issues with consistency of light. Light is not consistent in Nigeria. Anyone that lives in an apartment or flat that has 24 hours light, it doesn't mean that NEPA is they're now called PHCN, but we just call them NEPA. It doesn't mean that PHCN is supplying light 24 hours. It means that your estate has a gen that the moment NEPA takes light, they turn on the gen, or it's a standby gen. So those are serviced apartments. You have 24 hours light. You pay, you buy the light token yourself. Like you the same way that you would load airtime onto your phone is the same way you would load light units. Those are considered serviced apartments. Some of them have pools, some of them don't. So there's 24-hour serviced apartments. There are 12-hour serviced apartments. The state I live in is 24 hours light, service 24 hours a day. Now, the thing with serviced flats is generally they're a little pricier, and of course you have to take into consideration you're paying a service fee every month, and the management of the apartment or the facility has the right to increase the service fee. When I first moved into where I live, I was paying a certain amount, and every year they just add an extra 3K onto it in addition to you buying light. So you have to take into consideration I'm paying rent, and then every month I'm paying like kind of another tiny rent. Just have an extra 50,000 aside. Yeah. Now, if you live at a place that's not serviced, you're gonna have to buy your own gen, you're gonna have to operate your own gen, you're gonna have to service your own gen, and you're going to have to maintain it. And you decide when you want to cut on the gen, when you want to cut it off, and things like that. The good thing about staying in a place where you have your own gen is, of course, you're controlling when you have to run the lights, when you don't, in the case that NEPA takes light. The bad thing is that you have to be in control of that. So you're like, oh, God, I don't have this money for diesel this week, or my gen stopped working. Then you have to sit in the dark and hope that NEPA brings light. So they have their pros and cons. I knew that I had to be a serviced apartment. I couldn't do the no light thing, and also I thought about the fact that when my family visits, they can't do the no light thing either. Like I mentioned earlier about scams, guys, it's really crazy out here. Like people will literally take pictures from other real estate agents or just online, go on certain websites, major real estate websites, and say this is available. Someone will call them, okay, do this transfer. You get to the place, they've sold the place to like 7 other people, or they've rented out the place to like 7 other people. It happens to people who were born and raised in Nigeria. It happens to people who were born abroad and moved here. You know what I mean? It happens to everyone. Just pray against it, but it's the reality of the situation. The first thing you need to do with real estate companies, when you find the listing or somewhere, I'm looking at my computer, but When you find the listing, look at the real estate agent company, get the address, go. It's crazy, I know it's crazy. Go inside, visit. Oh, I saw this place online. Can you tell me more about it? Can we check it out? That's how you can generally decipher. If you go to the place, there's no one there, my dear. If the person has a real estate agency, there's not one person working there, it's a scam. If you go to their, if you click their real estate site, there's no address, it's a scam. You can also call the agency and have multiple people call the agency for the same listing and see what they say. Also allow people to recommend agents to you based on who they use. It shouldn't be, my friend is a real estate agent. If they have not used the real estate agent themselves, say bye-bye, say no. Now, the real estate site that we used to find the place was Nigerian Property. Now, this is the thing. Even when you go on their website, they also say, like, please do your due diligence. We're allowing listings, like people to post their listings, but it's not our liability. It's not our fault if you get scammed because they know what people be doing. So that's a good place to get listings. Search the location, search the price range, search how many bedrooms and bathrooms you want, search if you want the place to be serviced or not. Put all of those things in and you'll find listings. And it's not just for Lagos, it's also for Abuja. I think PH, I'm not sure, but I know for Abuja and Lagos, Nigerian Property is good. So Joe Etunu is who I use Nigerian Property to get pictures of listings, and I didn't 100% take anyone's word for it until I saw it myself. Unless the place is like a hotel or what they call apartments here, you're gonna have to put everything into the apartment. You're gonna have to buy your ACs, you're gonna have to buy your own fridge, you're gonna have to buy your own extractor for the kitchen. So those are extra costs too. Guys, I know this video was very much newscastery, like, hello, welcome to my channel. But I just wanted to make sure that I gave you guys all of the information so you have that in mind when you are looking for places here in Nigeria. If you have any more questions, if I missed anything, please feel free to comment below. Please feel free to send me a message. You can DM me on Instagram. It's easier to reach me on Instagram or via email. And yeah, that's all I've got for you guys. I hope you guys are holding up well. It's just been ridiculous. Guess what? I heard some places are opening up in America. I heard Jacksonville has reopened. So this may be more interesting than we thought. But anyway, we're not going to have any fear. We're going to trust in God. Everything's going to be fine. We're going to wash our hands. We're going to stay inside. We're not going to go out for certain appointments, okay? You know the appointments I'm talking about. We're not going to do it, okay? We're going to wait until after this is over to do all of those things. Okay? Please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like this video. I will see you very soon. Bye.